Among the mediations of art and society, the thematic, the open, or covert treatment of social matters is the most superficial and deceptive. The claim that the sculpture of a coal miner a priori says more socially than a sculpture without proletarian hero is by now echoed only where art is used for the purpose of forming opinion in the wooden language of the people's democracies of the Eastern Bloc, and is subordinated to empirical aims, mostly as a means for improving production. Emily Meunier's idealized coal miner and his realism dovetail with a bourgeois ideology that dealt with the then still visible proletariat by certifying that it too was beautiful humanity and noble nature. Even unvarnished naturalism is often a part with a deformed bourgeois character structure, a suppressed, in psychoanalytic terms, anal pleasure. It feeds on the suffering and decay it scourges. Like Blutenboten authors, Zola glorified fertility and employed anti-Semitic cliches. On the thematic level, in the language of indictment, no boundary can be drawn between aggressiveness and conformism. An agitprop chorus of the unemployed with a performative directive that it be performed in an ugly fashion may have functioned around 1930 as a certificate of correct political opinion, but would hardly ever testify to progressive consciousness. But it was always uncertain if the artistic stance of growling and raw technique really denounced such things or identified with them. Real denunciation is probably only a capacity of form, which is overlooked by a social aesthetic that believes in themes. What is socially decisive in artworks is the content, Inhalt, that becomes eloquent through the work's formal structures. Kafka, in whose work monopoly capitalism appears only distantly, codifies in the dregs of the administered world what becomes of people under the total social spell more faithfully and powerfully than do any novels about corrupt industrial trusts. The thesis that form is the locus of social content, Gehalt, can be concretely shown in Kafka's language. Its objectivity, its Kleistian quality has often been remarked upon, and readers who measure up to Kafka have recognized the contradiction between that objectivity and events that become remote through the imaginary character of so sober a presentation. However, this contrast becomes predictive not only because the quasi-realistic description brings the impossible menacingly close. At the same time, this critique of the realistic lineaments of Kafka's form, a critique that to socially committed ears seems all too artistic, has its social aspect. Kafka is made acceptable by many of these realistic lineaments as an ideal of order, possibly of a simple life and modest activity in one's assigned station, an ideal that is itself a mask of social repression. The linguistic habitus of the world is as it is the medium through which the social spell becomes aesthetic appearance. Kafka wisely guards against naming it, as if otherwise the spell would be broken, whose insurmountable omnipresence defines the arena of Kafka's work, and which, as its a priori, cannot become thematic. His language is the instrument of that configuration of positivism and myth that has only now become obvious socially. Reified consciousness, which presupposes and confirms the inevitability and immutableness of what exists, is, as the heritage of the ancient spell, the new form of the myth of the ever-same.